This is a huge question. Are you ready? How do I get myself out of debt?
Oh, bigger than I thought it was. Okay.
Well, we're going to ask Dad.
Okay. All right. Well, there are two really basic approaches to getting yourself out of debt. First of all, what you want to do is take each source of debt that you have, and we're talking not necessarily about home loans.
Okay.
That kind of debt, long-term, based upon the use of the asset for a long period of time, is not as devastating to people. It's not at the higher interest rates that credit cards, student loans, things like that are. But let's just take that out of the equation for the moment. So let's talk about like credit cards and student loans in general. The first thing to do is to make a list of your loans, and you have the name of the loan, you have the amount of the balance that's outstanding, you have the amount of your minimum monthly payment, and then you have your interest rate. Okay, so those pieces of information, put it down on paper or in a spreadsheet, something like that. Now, you're going to approach it from one of two ways. Total up the monthly minimum payments. And let's say it comes to, $1,200, something like that, okay? Now, with credit cards and student loans, it's not great to be making only monthly minimum payments because you just...
With the
it's
interest
just
rate,
right out there. It's very high, very high interest rate.
If it takes you longer to pay it off, the interest rate will make it a much more expensive.
The interest cost will make it very much more expensive. Ideally, you could pay it all off, but we're having this conversation because you couldn't pay it all off. So, okay, so you've got this lined up. You know what the monthly minimum payment is for each one. You also know what the interest rate is for each one. Let's take the first way, the monthly minimum payment way of doing it. Forget about the interest rate for a moment. Just look at those minimum monthly payments. And the reason that we're going to do that is what we want to do is take the one that has the highest monthly minimum payment and put as much money towards that one as we can. We want to try to pay that down and off as quickly as we can. Why do we want to do that? So the highest monthly minimum payment takes up the biggest chunk of what you have available, let's say, to pay off your loans. So if you have extra money, if you can, pay that one down first, okay? The reason is that when you pay that one down first, you free up the most money to pay off the others next, okay? So if you have $1,200 a month of minimum payments, and let's say you could afford $1,800 a month or $1,500 a month, something like that. And one of them is at $400 a month and the other are at $100, $200 a month, something like that. By putting all the extra money towards that $400 a month, minimum payment item, what you'll do is you'll free up more money for the rest that's left. So instead of having 1,200 minimum monthly payments, you'll get that down to 800 by getting rid of that 400 first. Okay. And then do it again if you get rid of that first one, do it again with the next one. If there's another one that's 300 and the others are all at 100, pay off the 300 as fast as you can to get that out of the way. The reason is that it's not best from an interest rate standpoint, this strategy, but it's best from a cash flow standpoint. So if you have the extra cash flow, this starts to free up your cash flow faster and allow you to pay down the minimum amounts and make the payments faster. So that's number one. Number two would be look at the interest rates. And if you have extra money, pay off whatever has the highest interest rate first, and then go to the next one after that, and the next one after that, and just keep on repeating the process. That lowers, the interest cost. But it may or may not help you get there faster because you might have a low monthly payment on the highest interest rate. Say you have $1,000 at 22% or something like that. That's a pretty high interest rate. But if it's a $70 a month minimum payment and you're struggling with $1,200 a month of student loans and credit card and everything else, that one's immaterial. So that's the reason that the interest rate does matter, but from a cash flow... It matters on
how much the minimum payment actually is. So like if you had a minimum payment of $400 a month at 22%, that would be more catastrophic to not pay off than the $100 minimum payment at 22%. Because that will grow exponentially faster.
Correct. But let's say that the $400 is at 18% and the $100 is at 22%, it may still make sense to pay off the $400 faster because you will be able to pay off that $100 $800
Easier once that's
22% debt
done.
much
Okay.
faster once
Okay.
you get there. So those are broadly speaking, those are the two different ways to handle the debt. You could literally create a spreadsheet that says, if I can put, with my current income, I can put an extra $500 a month toward paying off these minimum payments. Then I'm going to go this one and see how many months it'll take to get rid of that one. Now you have 500 plus, say, 400. Now you have $900 a month to pay off, and you can look and see which ones you would pay off,
Yeah.
next, and like that, and see if you can't get it down to zero faster that way. You could also, I mean, if you're analytical, you could create a spreadsheet and do it the other way, pay off the high interest rate amount first and see how many months that would take, and then,
Yeah, yeah.
do
You
it
can
like
kind
that.
of see what the better option would be when you use these kind of tools to your advantage and figure out,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
in the long run, is that going to be more expensive to me? Or in the long run, will that mean that I barely have any cash on hand or what
Yes.
have you?
But for some people, if you're analytical, that's great. That's probably a good way to do it. If you're not so analytical, not so good with either math or spreadsheets or things like that, just making that choice, I'm going to go one way or the other. I actually lean towards the higher minimum monthly
Hmm.
payments because it makes people feel better to have less financial pressure.
Yeah. In theory,
So
you'll have less debt faster because it's a bigger number.
you may, but you'll certainly feel better when,
Like,
instead of $1,200 a month of minimum payments
yeah.
to loans, student loans and credit cards and all of that, when that gets down to $800 a month, you just feel less financial
Yeah.
pressure. And when that gets down to $500 a month, you feel less financial pressure. So it's that process helps people feel better about getting through the debt, and it not being as large a percentage of their income,
Yeah.
because that's what puts the pressure on us, is
Yeah.
being like, oh my God, $1,200 before I get up in the morning, $1,200 is gone, right?
Hmm.
It's a lot better to feel like, okay, $500 is gone before I get up in the morning, but now that I have all this extra money to pay down debt, even that 500 is going to go way faster.
Yeah.
So that's, by the way, I mean, we may be talking years. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. It may
No.
not be months, but it's still better to have a disciplined mathematical approach to it
Mm.
that makes sense for you, rather than just sort of, piecemealing money to different things. And
Yeah. Hoping for the best.
hopefully I'll get this paid off one day,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's good to have a strategy.
A strategy, a plan.
I hope that this gave you one. If you liked this, please like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to cover everything that you didn't learn in school or didn't learn. Maybe you didn't have a financial parent. I'm okay with sharing. So we're going to keep asking Dad. Stay tuned for the next one.